The topic is aspects to be measured. Now, in the last week we discussed about the measuring instruments, tests. So, in these tests, what do we measure? What do we test? That's what we are going to discuss in this lesson. Aspects to be measured. Now, what do we have to measure or test? Our objectives or the learning outcomes. Now, for example, if we are going to teach the grade 7 students how to write an advertisement, right, in our fourth period maybe. So what is your objective there? To enable the students to write an advertisement. We'll say on a food product, a jam maybe. So that is the objective, right? And the expected learning outcome will be, at the end of the period, the student will be able to write an advertisement on a food product correctly. So that is what you test or assess at the end of the period. You give them a task in the production stage to see whether the students can write an advertisement. Right? That is what you measure. But that's one example. But when we measure, not only the ability to write an advertisement, we have to measure. There are other things also. That's what we are going to learn in this lesson, right? What are the things that we should measure, assess in students? When we give them tests, what do we have to measure? Now we'll go through the note. The ultimate goal of education is to produce a well-balanced citizen to the society. That sentence is important, underline it, because when you write your answers, you will have to include these, right, as the introductory sentence maybe. The ultimate goal, the final target of education is what? To produce a well-balanced citizen, a person to the society. To achieve this, the system of education or the process of learning and teaching should be a well-organized one. Right? If we want to produce a well-balanced citizen, then the system of education or the classroom teaching learning process should be a well-organized one. That's true, no? Teaching, learning and evaluation. Three things, right? Teaching, learning and evaluation are interrelated processes in the system of education. That's also true, right? We teach and the students learn, and then we give tests or assess them. Based on the marks, we make judgments. Those are evaluations. So based on evaluations, we can either move forward or do the same lesson, right? Likewise, all these three aspects are interrelated. Now we'll take this chart sequence. Objectives. Prior to the lesson, we need objectives, and then we go to the class and we teach, and the students learn. Teaching learning process. So at the end of the period, we can see the learning outcomes. Right? We have objectives 1 or 3. Then at the end of the period, we can see the results, the outcomes. How can we know whether we have achieved the objectives? We can give them a test. Testing this is in a kind of an assessment. So based on the marks or based on the student's performance, we can make judgments, evaluations, right? That's the process. and we have to organize this process very well. Then only we can produce a well-balanced citizen. The learner supporter. Who is this learner supporter? The teacher or the instructor, the facilitator, the guide. The learner supporter should plan and organize the learning process so as to achieve the set objectives. Do you agree with that? Yes. The teacher must plan and organize the lesson properly. Then only we can achieve our objectives. The experiences or the behaviors that the learner gains in this learning process are called learning outcomes. The results, right? We have objectives, then we teach, the students learn, and the students gain some experiences. These experiences are learning outcomes and they are related to our objectives. With the use of various types of measurements, we test whether these learning outcomes are achieved according to the set objectives. With the use of various types of measurements, right, we can give different types of tests, no? Written test, oral test, projects, assignments, field trips. So by using different types of tools, we can get marks, right? Measurements. We test whether these learning outcomes are achieved. What are these learning outcomes? They are the experiences or the things that the students have learned, and they should be related to the objectives, right? So we test whether these learning outcomes are achieved according to the set objectives. Our objective is, now in our example, to get the students to write an advertisement, and our learning outcome also should be what? The students, getting the students to write an advertisement. The students should be able to write an advertisement at the end. So they should match, tally with each other. This is called evaluation. We test and we see, we get marks, and based on the marks we make judgments, right? Whether we have achieved the set objectives. To make accurate evaluations, the measurements should be of good quality. To make accurate judgments, the measurements, the marks should be of good quality. Now, for example, if we ask them to write an advertisement, right? That is our objective now. So at the end, we just ask them to write some words, dictation. Maybe we give dictation, date of expiry, product, like that. Or we can give them fill in the blanks, spellings. So, do we achieve can we check whether we have achieved our objective? What is our objective? Getting the students to write an advertisement. Right? Spellings and all these are included in, but not the completed one. So the students will get full marks because the words are there, no? So they'll complete the blanks. So now then we then we make the judgment. The students got 10 out of 10. The majority of students scored full marks. So they know the way to write the advertisement. Is that a correct judgment? No. So to make accurate evaluations, the measurements should be of good quality, right? The tests should be of good quality. Not too easy, not too difficult, based on the content we teach, based on the objective. They should cover all the domains or areas that should be measured in order to test whether the learning objectives facilitate the goal of producing a well-balanced citizen. Right? So, not only the ability to write, that's the key point here, that's the core of the lesson. Not only ability to write an advertisement, there are some other areas also that we have to develop in students, right? So when we set our objectives, we'll have to cover those things also. Then only we can give a proper test based on the selected content. So they should cover all the domains or areas that should be measured in order to test whether the learning objectives facilitate the goal of producing a well-balanced citizen. Now we'll see who is this well-balanced citizen. Now, who is a well-balanced person? A well-balanced person should be knowledgeable, affectionate. What do you mean by affectionate? With good attitudes, values, beliefs. Okay. So a well-balanced person should be knowledgeable, affectionate, skillful, and also with good personality traits and social skills. So how many aspects? 5. What are those? He should be knowledgeable. He should have knowledge about things, right? Subject matter maybe about the world. Knowledgeable, affectionate, very kind, with good attitudes and all, positive attitudes. Skillful and with personality traits and social skills, right? Positive ones. Thus, the educational objectives and expected learning outcomes should be classified into 5 domains as follows. To produce a well-balanced person, as mentioned above, so our specific objectives and also the expected learning outcomes should be based on those 5 aspects. They are called the domains, right? The areas. First one, the cognitive domain, right? It deals with mind. Knowledge deals with mind or brain, right? So what do you mean by cognitive domain? The knowledge and intellectual abilities and intellectual skills, right? Memory, ability to remember. Then the second one is affective domain. It deals with heart, right? The emotions. Here within brackets you can see the attitudes, values, feelings, emotions, beliefs. Write them down. They deal with the heart, affective domain. Not affectionate domain, right? Affective domain. Third one is psychomotor domain. That means mind and body. Psycho means mind. Motor means do things, right? Body or hand. Mind and hand, mind and body, like that. You do things. Skills, right? So in the psychomotor domain, we deal with skills, activities based on unity of mind and body, right? We do things, performances. Number 4, fourth domain is personality traits. Personality traits means individual characteristics. Write it there. Characteristics. What characteristics? Individual characteristics. That's why personality traits. Then number 5, social skills. Social skills means how to live in a society peacefully and usefully. You can live in the society peacefully, but if you are not useful, then is it good? No. You are useful to the society, but you are not peaceful. Is that good? No. So social skills deal with how to live in a society peacefully and usefully. So those are the 5 domains. Those are the 5 areas. So to produce a well-balanced citizen with all these 5 aspects, we should have our lessons or the objectives of the lessons based on these. Right? Then only we can produce a well-balanced citizen. If not, we will be producing a knowledgeable person. Is that good? No. Only a skillful person? No. Other things are also needed. Knowledge, affections, attitudes, good personalities, those things also important. So all 5 domains are equally important. But nowadays we pay more attention to the knowledge. It's not appropriate, accurate. So then we can't produce a well-balanced citizen. Right? So to produce a well-balanced citizen, we have to pay attention to these 5 domains equally. Now there's a chart, that's the summary of the whole lesson. You know the ultimate goal of education is to produce a well-balanced citizen. So our objectives and the learning outcomes should be based on or targeted at producing a well-balanced citizen. Now, the characteristics of a well-balanced person. Who is this well-balanced person? I told you, you can see that in red, right? So, there are 5 areas. What are those? Knowledge, attitudes, values, feelings, right? Then skills, then good characteristics, and social skills. Now, knowledge deals with the cognitive domain. The subject matter, right, deals with the cognitive domain. And if we take the body part, the relevant body part, it deals with the brain or the mind. And the educationist, the B.S. Bloom, has put forward his taxonomy regarding how to develop students' knowledge, the steps in the development of the students' knowledge. Right? That's the way. Then we are taking the attitudes, values. What's the domain then? Affective domain. You don't find a knowledge domain, attitude domain, skill domain. No. So cognitive domain, affective domain. Affective domain deals with attitudes, values. Right. The body part is heart. And the person who has put forward this one is D.R. Krathwohl. The spellings, the correct spellings are Krathwohl. Correct, right? D.R. Krathwohl's taxonomy. According to this taxonomy, Krathwohl has put forward 5 steps in order to develop good attitudes in students. Then the skills, right? Psychomotor domain. It deals with mind and body, mind and hand. The person is E.J. Simpson. E.J. Simpson. He has put forward his taxonomy. He says, according to it, there are 7 steps that one has to follow in order to develop a skill in students. Then personality traits. What are personality traits? Individual characteristics, right? Politeness, honesty, punctuality, leadership qualities. Those are individual characteristics. Then social skills. How to respect the others within the group, with the others, and to how to work cooperatively, like that. Those are social skills, how to live in a society peacefully and usefully. So we have to include all these things when we plan our lessons, right? Then only we can develop these qualities, 5 domains in students, right? Now we'll study these domains one by one. First one, educational objectives and learning outcomes of cognitive domain, right? Educational objectives means prior to the lesson we have some targets, education objectives, and at the end of the period or the lesson or the year the student gain some experiences. They are learning outcomes, and the learning outcomes should match the objectives, right? So under knowledge, under cognitive domain, there are certain objectives that we have to have. There are six different types, right? According to the taxonomy of B.S. Bloom, the educational objectives of cognitive domain can be categorized as follows. B.S. Bloom's taxonomy of cognitive domain, right? B.S. Benjamin Samuel, that's his photo, right? So according to B.S. Bloom's taxonomy, there's another name for this taxonomy, classification. Write it there. Classification. According to B.S. Bloom's classification or taxonomy of cognitive domain, there are 6 steps. That means, according to B.S. Bloom, there are 6 steps that one should follow in order to develop knowledge, right, pertaining to a subject. So that's the way you'll have to explain this, right? According to B.S. Bloom, there are 6 steps one should develop in order to develop the knowledge. Or 6 steps one should follow in order to develop the knowledge, right? What are those 6 steps? First one, the base is knowledge. Knowledge means knowledge of the subject matter. We'll say different types of tests. You learned last week, measuring instruments. So you must have some knowledge, information about different types of tests. That's knowledge. You may have the note, right? Then the comprehension. Once you have the knowledge, you should be able to understand what you have learned, right? That is important to develop your knowledge. First, the base is the knowledge of subject matter. Then you should be able to understand what you have learned. Third step, application. That means you should be able to use your knowledge of the things that you have understood in day-to-day life, in the practical life, right? Application. Analysis means you should be able to segment or separate. Now, for example, you are given a test paper. Then you should be able, if you have sufficient knowledge and if you can understand what you have learned, you should be able to use that knowledge practically. How? You should be able to separate the items. These are MCQs, objective type. These are essay type questions. These are semi-objective type. Likewise, you should be able to separate this. That's analysis. Synthesis means you should be able to combine. First one, segmentation, right? Separating. Now here, synthesizing means you should be able to combine all these. There is what are those? Supply type, then selection type. All these, they belong to the objective type questions. Likewise, you should be able to combine them. That is synthesis. Evaluation means you should be able to compare and make judgments. To compare certain things, you should have proper knowledge. Now, say if you want to compare the economy of Sri Lanka with the economy of India, so you should have proper knowledge of the two economies. Then only you can compare and make judgments, right? So evaluation is the highest one. Now, if we go to this colored picture down there, now B.S. Bloom, he has put forward his taxonomy in 1956. Right, according to that, there's a hierarchy. This triangular, right, top to bottom. The base is knowledge, subject matter. Then comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Right? So you can see there's a big arrow, red arrow. Down there you see lower order thinking skills. Another name, lower order cognitive abilities, right? So you can see a line, a purple color line across the triangular. Mm, Now, those three steps, knowledge, comprehension, and application, they belong to the lower order cognitive abilities, thinking skills, right? You can find questions in ELT also, under that section, questioning lower order questions. So then higher order cognitive abilities are analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Right? Then you can see another one in 2001. That's the revised version of B.S. Bloom's taxonomy. Revised one. Sorry. Now there are also you can find 6 steps. What's the base there? Remember. Remember means recall. Up there you can find, right? Ability to recall things. That's actually the same meaning, right? Knowledge. And comprehension means understand. Application, apply. Analysis, analyze. Actually here that is noun and verb, but here nouns also, right? Earlier one, noun, knowledge, comprehension, nouns. Now here verb form, ability to remember, to understand, to apply, right? To verb form. And then analyze, then you can see evaluate. After analysis, evaluation. Then creativity, creation or to create. Then only you can, if you have proper knowledge, then only you can create good things, right? New ones. That's the highest level according to the revised version. So you have to remember both. All right. That's the Bloom's taxonomy. Now we'll go through these things quickly, one by one. Now we'll go through these steps quickly. First one, knowledge. That's the base, right, in that hierarchy. Knowledge is the ability to memorize and remember information gained through understanding, recognizing, learning, and experiencing. Right? 4 things. Underline that. What is knowledge? Knowledge is the ability to memorize and remember. Right? Memorize and recall. You memorize things and you should be able to remember them also. Them means what? Information. The ability to memorize the information and ability to remember the information gained through understanding, recognizing, learning, and experiencing. Right? So, you can, as this child has written, you can remember like this. The ability, knowledge is the ability to remember the learned factors. At least remember like that. What is knowledge? The ability to memorize and remember the information learned. Now, knowledge can be divided into 2 main categories and several subcategories under them as follows, right? You don't have to remember this chart, but remember now there are, you can see on the right side, there are 9 things, right? Knowledge of like that. So at least remember 3 things out of 9. That is knowledge. Knowledge is the ability to memorize the learned information. The learned information is based on these 9 subcategories, right? Once I have explained this, we can come to this chart. The learning outcomes and the relevant objectives to be achieved can be studied under the category of knowledge in cognitive domain as follows. Right, we have to set our objectives under this knowledge as follows, right? There are 9 steps. Number 1, knowledge of specific. Under that, knowledge of technical terms. Those are the things you will have to remember, at least 3 things now. So knowledge of technical terms. If you know the technical terms in a subject, then that part is relevant to knowledge, right? Second one, knowledge of specific facts, information. Third one, knowledge of conventions, down there, right? First one, knowledge of technical terms. Each subject has its own technical terms used within its field. The ability to understand and define them is expected here. Now, if we take the measurement and evaluation, there are technical terms. What is measurement? What is evaluation? What is reliability? What are objective type tests? What is subjectivity? So if you can define those technical terms, then you can say you are knowledgeable about these technical terms, right? So how can we, that's the objective to be achieved. Now the learning outcome is the student should be able to define the technical terms. How can we test that? By giving them a question. Now for example, now this lesson is about, as I have mentioned on the top, grade 8 text, the old version, right? Sharing and caring, page 22. This is about the environment, how to protect the environment. So the learning outcome is, that means we are checking whether the students have understood the technical terms there. The ability to define environmental pollution. So that's what we are checking, whether the students can define the term environmental pollution. The question is, environmental pollution is the foul state of water, contamination of land, dirty and unhealthy air in the atmosphere, contaminated state of water, land and the air around us. So that's an MCQ. By giving that MCQ, we can check whether the student can define that technical term. What's the answer there? Number 4, D, right? So then we can see whether the student have understood this technical term. That's the way, right? Second one, knowledge of specific facts. That means knowledge of specific information pertaining, related to the subject, right? In the measurement and evaluation, there are certain information, right? Now, to make accurate evaluations, the measurements should be of good quality. That's one information, right? So you should know the subject matter. Then the learning outcome, what? Ability to name the types of pollution regarding this lesson. Then how they occur. That's the information. That is specific facts. So you can give tests, questions as given above. Third one, knowledge of conventions. Conventions means what? Ability to understand and identify symbols, signs, rules, colors, etc. pertain to given subject area. Now here the learning outcomes, if the students can identify these symbols in geography or the environment, we can say that they know these conventions, right? So what is blue symbolizes water, brown symbolizes land. So these symbols, they refer this rainy, sunny, windy, right? If it is maths, more than symbol, equation mark, approximately equal, less than mark, right? Those are symbols. Number 4, knowledge of trends and sequences. Ability to identify and explain special features, differences, similarities, developmental sequences, etc. Of an event or a subject. Now here in this lesson, this is about the pollution, environmental pollution. This is the sequence. What? Destruction of trees causes soil erosion, Panchakadane. It causes floods. So that's a sequence. Right? If the student can identify, understand this, they are knowledgeable about this sequence, then we can say they have understood the lesson to some extent. Right? Knowledgeable about this. You can check by giving them blanks so that they can complete this chart. Number 5, knowledge of classification and categorizations. The ability to classify and categorize objects or events according to a specific criteria. Right? Example, classification of literal work. Now you have to separate or classify them. According to what? What's the criteria? According to the era, right? Victorian era, likewise. Now if we say assessments, well, the criteria will be according to the person who assesses. There are 3 types of assessment. What are those? Peer assessment, self-assessment, teacher assessment, according to the person who assesses the work. Right. Likewise, here the ability to categorize under different types of pollution. The criteria is different types of pollution: air, water, land. Then the students can write the answers. Right? They can complete the table. Air pollution. What? The smoke from the factories, then the dust in the air. Water, land, rivers, ponds. Not land, water, ponds, rivers, streams. Right. Land pollution, garbage pits. Then soil, right, with chemicals and all. Then next one, knowledge of criteria. Criteria. Earlier one, classification according to a criteria. Now, knowledge of criteria. The ability to identify the factors, reasons or indices that classify objects or events. Actually, now according to that, earlier one, in the table, the students completed the body of the table. Now here we are referring to the heading of the table, right? According to the place of occurrence, we can classify that. That's the factor, right? Criteria. Classify pollution, place of occurrence. What are the, where it occurs? Ponds, rivers, seas, water pollution. Then land pollution, air pollution. So these are the headings, criteria. That means combination, right? Earlier one is separation, analysis. Now here synthesis, combination. Knowledge of methods. Knowledge of certain methods that can be used in obtaining better results. Now, if the students can identify different methods, these methods are suitable for this. This method is suitable for this. Likewise, then we can say the student has the knowledge regarding the methods. Now, example, to represent data, graphical method. Right, to represent data, we can use graphs. Now, to represent as a whole, sampurneka, samaste. As a whole, we can use the pie chart. To indicate the growth, we can use a line graph. To compare, we can use bar charts. Now here you can see on the learning outcomes, the ability to use histograms. There are 3, right? Histograms to show the state of pollution in each year. Here you can compare that. Right. So the knowledge of methods, we can use histograms to compare, right, to indicate the state of pollution. Identification of the method, knowledge. The student is knowledgeable about the relevant, suitable method. Then the knowledge of theories and principles, right? Knowledge of principles and generalizations. The principles in the subject matter. Pythagoras theory, that's a theory, knowledge of certain principles and accepted notions in pertaining subjects. Now physics, the notion, the accepted principle is light generates heat, right? Light, a bulb gives warmth, no? So light generates heat. That's the principle. In the subject economy, what's the principle? Demand increases supply. When the demand increases, the supply increases. Now here, understand the principle and the environment, that the environment is necessary for the growth and development of all plants and animals. So that's the principle, right? Environment is necessary for the growth and development of all plants and animals. If the student understands that principle, we can say he is knowledgeable about the theories and principles in the subject matter. Number 9, knowledge of theories and structures. That is, knowledge of certain theories pertaining to different types of subjects. Here, the theory of formation of rain, wind with vapors. Wind with vapors, because of the low pressure, then condense into tiny drops of water, and that goes to, create rain. Condense. Okay, so Pythagoras theory in maths, Newton's theory, those are the theories in the subjects. If the child is knowledgeable about these 9 things, we can say the child possesses a good knowledge pertaining to a subject or a certain area. Right, so go through that chart on the top, then you can understand. The second step in the Bloom's taxonomy is comprehension. Comprehension precedes knowledge. That means comprehension goes in front of knowledge. We have to pass knowledge to go to comprehension, right? So we know the subject matter, we should be able to understand it. Knowledge without proper comprehension is useless. Comprehension is threefold. It's 3 types. How can we know whether a student has understood, comprehended the subject content? If he can transform what he has learned, right? Or if he can interpret, explain what he has learned. And if he can predict or foretell what's going to happen in the future, once he has understood the content, then he can predict what will happen. Then we can say the student has understood the content, right? 3 forms: transformation, interpretation, and prediction. We'll quickly go through these 3. Transformation. The change in nature, form, or appearance is transformation. The change in nature, form, or appearance is transformation. There are 4 ways of doing this. 1. Transformation of words or ideas into another form. Example, writing the meaning or the idea of a given paragraph in simple words. You are transforming. The paragraph is there, you read it and you understand it, right? Then you write the meaning of that paragraph in your own words. That's paraphrasing. So that is transformation. Words to words, right? That's why I have written W to W, words to words. That's one way of transforming. Second one, Transformation of words into symbols. Example, presentation of information on economic development. So the economic development is given in words, right, as in a paragraph. Then you read it, you understand the content there, and you represent the information by drawing a graph. So words to a graph, symbol. Now here, danger, that's the word. You can indicate the danger by this symbol, right? Words to symbol. That's why W is words to symbol. Third one, transformation of symbols into words, the other way around. Example, interpretation of a graph. The graph is given, symbol. Then you explain it using words. You can write a paragraph. So symbol to words, transforming. To transform, you have to understand what is given there. Right? That is comprehension. Number 4, transformation of one form of symbols to another form of symbols. Right? Symbols to symbols. Example, drawing a histogram using a polygon. You know how to draw a polygon, just a line. Then based on the polygon, you can draw a histogram also, taking the midpoints. You can draw the bars. So symbol to symbol. Alright, so transformation, there are 4 steps, ways. You can say it's fourfold. What is that? Words to words, paragraph to another paragraph. Then words to symbols, symbols to words, symbols to symbols. So that we can say the student has understood the content, right? If he can transform what is given in 4 ways. Second way, interpretation. This is the intellectual process which involves transformation. Explaining the meaning, expressing views, or making inferences on given information is called interpretation. Explaining the meaning, expressing views, right? You read a paragraph and explain the meaning. Then you read a paragraph and express your ideas. To express your ideas, you should be able to understand the paragraph, right? And you can make inferences, guesses, based on the given information. That is interpretation. Remember interpretation, correlation, analysis and all. Example, identification of the basic ideas, key points of a paragraph. That's in interpretation. Understand the relationship between 2 factors of a graph, marks and the number of students. You explain those things. Then comparison of population into successive decades using a graph. Successive decades means decade 10 years. Successive means adjoining. 2000 to 2010. 2001 to 2010. 2011 to 2020. Likewise. Comparison of population using a graph. So interpretation. Alright. Third one, prediction. This involves foretelling, underline foretelling. Interpretation, explaining or expressing ideas. This involves foretelling. Foretelling means which goes beyond the given information. You read the information and you say something about it, what will happen in the future based on the given information. In order to say something, what will happen in the future, you should understand what's given there now. That is comprehension. In other words, the process of making assumptions, upakalpana, assumptions with the use of transformation and interpretation on existing information is prediction. Example, making assumptions on the world population growth in the next 5 years by studying the rate of population growth of past few decades. So you read the information of the past few decades of population, then you guess what will happen in the future, in the next 5 years. To do that, you will have to understand the given data. So how can we know that the student has understood the given data? Then if we can predict what will happen in the future based on the given data, then we can say he has understood. So comprehension is threefold: transformation, interpretation, and prediction. That means we can say the student has understood, comprehended the given information if he can transform it, if he can interpret, explain, if he can predict what will happen. Right? These three are the things that we can use to check whether the student has understood the content. The third step in the Bloom's taxonomy, that is the application. Application precedes comprehension, that you can understand. Application goes beyond comprehension. Application examines whether the obtained knowledge or principles based on comprehension can be used in other situations. So application means the ability to use what you have learned in other situations, right? Practical use. To use something, first you have to have the knowledge about it. Then you have to understand. Then only you can apply what you have learned and understood, right? In practical situations, new situations. Example, the application of concepts and principles in new situations. The identification of changes that should be made in a lesson plan previously designed for an average class for a class of weak students at present. Now when you go for your teaching practice, you prepare your lesson plans for the average students. That's the way you do, right? But when you go to the school and start teaching, you realize the students are not at the average level but below the average. The students are weak. So what you do is you adapt your lesson plan according to the standard of the students, right? You change your teaching methods according to the standard of the students. So that is application of your knowledge. You know how to simplify the activities. You know how to explain with lots of examples and all. Right? That is application. You use your knowledge in other situations. Next one, the use of theories and principles in practical situations. Example, calculation of height of a building using the Pythagoras theory. So you learn the Pythagoras theory in the classroom, then you can understand it, then you apply the theory in practical situations. That's all. Now we'll say the basic mathematical operations: addition, division, subtraction, all these. You go to a shop and you buy something and you pay money, you get the balance, you check the balance, subtraction, right? So you are using your knowledge in practical situation. Problem solving, utilization of knowledge and comprehension to solve problems in various situations. Now say in your health period you study about first aid. You learn the techniques, then you can understand, then you can use what you have learned in practical situations, right? If you find a child unconscious, how to gain conscious, like that you can say. Ability to prepare graphs, charts, and maps, models, etc. Example, gives directions to a place by drawing a map. If you know how to draw a map, you can, when somebody asks you how to go to this place, you can draw a simple map and give, right? You are using that knowledge in situation. Next, number 5, ability to identify the correct and appropriate methods and techniques. States the deviation method is better than the direct method in finding correlation. And that's correlation analysis. You studied only the Spearman's rank because now that's in your syllabus now, but those days the Spearman's direct and deviation methods were there, right? So you select the best method for the situation appropriately. For that you have to know the method and you have to understand it, then only you can apply. That is application. So what you have to remember, application is the ability to use the knowledge in other situations or in practical situations. Analysis. Analysis is the process of segmentation of an entity and examination of the relationship between its component, right? So analysis is the process of segmentation. You divide, separate. What do you separate? An entity, a unit. You take a unit and you separate it into different parts and examine the relationship between its components. Then you find the relationship between the segments. In other words, breaking up of an entity, a problem or a sequence into its reasons, principles, events, characteristics, etc. and examining critically the existing relationships among the factors is called analysis. Right, here you are as the graph shows you, the diagram, you separate things, analysis, analyze. You separate, you segment an entity, a unit, and study the relationship among the segments. Analysis of segments, analysis of relationship, analysis of organization, right? This is the, so you can go through these are the, it's all right. But what you have to remember is analysis means you should be able to segment, separate the components of a unit and find the relationship among them. That is analysis. Analyze. Now you sometimes you are asked to critically analyze something, right? So you'll have to segment these things and compare and contrast. Here right. Next one, synthesis, analysis. All right. Right. The next step in the Bloom's taxonomy is synthesis. You synthesize. What is synthesis? Synthesis is the process of combining of elements. Underline that. You are combining elements. Earlier in the analysis, you separate them. Here you are combining. Combining of elements, parts or components into a system, compound or a whole, right? Combining parts into an entity. You make one thing, one unit by combining different parts. Now, example, formation of new statements. Example, writes a summary of a given passage. Right, now we are not separating here. Now, in the earlier one, analysis, you read a paragraph and underline the adjectives. There you read the paragraph and you are separating. These are nouns, these are verbs, these are adjectives, these are adverbs. Then you'll have to underline the adjectives. There you are separating an entity into different parts. But in analysis, you are combining. Now here, writing a summary of a given passage. That means you read the passage and you summarize it, combining the facts, right? And to make one unit. A summary is one unit. Formation of a structure, plan or process. Example, tabulation of information in a paragraph under appropriate headings. Now say that this is about that criteria thing, right? Ponds, rivers, then streams, they all dirty ponds and all, they come under what's that? Water pollution. You are collecting all these things in one direction, right? Water pollution, combining. Formation of a system of alternative relationship. Example, states two economical and political advantages, assuming Galle as the capital of Sri Lanka. So you are finding relationships and making a unit, one unit. So synthesizing is, just remember, combining parts to an entity, right? Synthesizing, combination. Now, as I said, water, land, air, all these, they come under pollution, right? Evaluation, the last one, the highest step. Evaluation is making a judgment on a value of an object, event or an entity is evaluation. Making judgments by comparing, right? Here, according to this, it says, one, you can make evaluations in two ways. One, evaluation based on internal criteria examines whether a particular poem depicts good literal characteristics. Internally, you are compare and write. Evaluation based on external criteria makes a judgment by comparing the economic development of criteria with that of Sri Lanka. So you are comparing two things, development criteria and the Sri Lankan economy, right? Then you are comparing these two and making judgments, evaluation. That's the highest one. So down there you can see Bloom's taxonomy. Once again, the base is the knowledge. You should be able to define each step, right? Define in the sense, what is knowledge? Knowledge is what? Earlier you have underlined. Knowledge is the ability to memorize and remember information. That is knowledge. Comprehension, the ability to understand the information, learned information. Application, the ability to use what you have learned and understood in other situations, practical situation. Analysis, the ability to segment an entity and find the relationship among the components. Synthesis, the ability to combine different components into a single unit. Evaluation, the ability to compare and make judgments. To compare, you should know, you should understand, right, what is given there. Then only you can do the comparison. That's the highest step. All right. Now, according to the revised version also, recall means remember means recalling, right? Knowledge. Understand, that's also comprehension. Apply, analyze. Evaluation means comparison, right? Comparison and making judgments. Then the creativity, once you have understood everything and you can, if you can apply, analyze, evaluate, compare and contrast, then you can create new things, right? That's the way according to the new version. So you'll have to remember these the steps, and also you should be able to define each step, right? That is Bloom's taxonomy. What is Bloom's taxonomy? Now, according to B.S. Bloom, he says that one has to follow 6 steps in order to develop his knowledge. Right? These are the 6 steps: knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, evaluation. Remember these. Now, specific objectives. What is this lesson? It's about aspects to be measured, right? There are 5 aspects. What are those? Knowledge, attitude, skills, personality traits, and social skills. Right? So, to produce a well-balanced citizen, we have to develop all 5 domains in students. So that in order to do that, when we teach, in every lesson, we'll have to develop these 5 domains. So, we have to set our objectives of the lesson in order to develop these 5 domains, right, in each lesson. So we need to learn how to write our objectives using the correct format, right, to develop these 5 domains. If we take the Bloom's taxonomy, then there are 6 steps now. So you should be able to write specific objectives in relation to the steps, those 6 steps, right? We'll say knowledge. I have taught you how to write the specific objectives or expected learning outcomes. There are 5 components you'll have to remember. There should be the doer, the student, the learner, my student, the pupil, right? Like the doer should be there, and then the action verb should be there. Action verb, that means you should be able to see the action externally, right? Defines. You can see, underlines, write the answers. You can see the action, right? Learns, understands. No, they are not action words, right? So in your note, the last few pages are of action verbs you can use for these 5 domains, right? So you can make use of them. Now action verb is there. Then the result. So you are at the end of the action verb, ask what. The student defines what. Then you can get the result. What's the result here? The term education, right? That is the result. Defines the term education. Then the scope is there, area. Using his own words. How? Using his own words accurately. That's the standard, right? Those 5 things should be included when you write your objectives, especially in the measurement at the exam. Now we'll go through these specific objectives or expected learning outcomes. Here I have the child, this student has used simple present verbs, right? But I think it's in your syllabus, it's the future tense. Accordingly, you use it, right? The student will be able to define or defines whatever. The student knowledge, right? The student defines the term education using his own words accurately. Comprehension, the student paraphrases. Remember, transformation, interpretation, and prediction. So you can use those things. The student paraphrases the given passage on education in his own words correctly. Paraphrasing means writing the meaning in his own words. Application, the student reasons out, argues the problems in education correctly. Analysis, the student categorizes different types of education given in an article on education appropriately. There are certain mistakes, right? But you can correct them. Synthesis, the student writes a summary. See the combination. The student writes a summary based on an article on education meaningfully. That's correct. Evaluation. The student compares the good points of primary education and secondary education meaningfully. Something is missing. The area is missing. No? The student, the doer is there, compares, action verb is there, compares what? The good points of primary education and secondary education. And based on a given article on education meaningfully. Likewise, you should be able to write the specific objectives for all 5. 6. Right. The second domain is the affective domain. Educational objectives and learning outcomes of affective domain. If one is capable of developing new attitudes, actually it should be positive attitudes. If one is capable of developing positive attitudes, beliefs, good characteristics, values, habits, hobbies, etc. as a result of the teaching learning process. These are said to be the learning outcomes of affective domain, right? As a result of the teaching learning process, if one can develop positive new attitudes, positive beliefs, good characteristics, right? Good values, good useful habits, hobbies, then we can say the child has developed his affective domain, right? As a result of the teaching learning process. Now after a lesson, if the child gains negative attitudes, is that a good lesson? No. It should be a positive one, right? Since these internal changes of a person, these are internal changes, right, within oneself. Since these internal changes of a person are more connected to feelings or heart than to intelligence, brain, it is difficult to observe them directly or measure them by giving written tests. Now these things related to affective domain, right? Good habits, beliefs, attitudes. Can we measure them directly? Can we see them? No, it's not easy to measure them, right? Now if we take the intelligence, we can give them a test, right? And then they can answer the questions. Directly we can measure. But these feelings, habits, characteristics, values, attitudes, can we measure them directly? No, it's not that easy. But we can measure them by using the Likert scale, right? Attitudinal scales. For example, say you give a statement like this: we must help the elders whenever it is possible. Strongly agree, agree, cannot say, disagree, strongly disagree. So the students will circle their answers, right? But then we can give marks. We can judge their attitudes. But it is not that valid, because sometimes though they don't believe in helping the elders whenever possible, they will mark strongly agree. That's not the real or the true status. Observe them directly or measure them by giving written test. But it is very important to generate those changes in a child, and the teacher must plan the teaching learning process not only to promote and encourage these behavioral changes, but also to evaluate them as well. Most of the time you can inculcate, actually you inculcate good attitudes, beliefs, values, right? That's the term, inculcate. You master a skill, you inculcate attitudes, values. So you can make use of this now in a lesson, setting the scene. In the presentation stage, you can inculcate good habits, good attitudes when you introduce the lesson to the student. Say grade 4, there's a lesson, different professions, right? So when you introduce the farmer, you can say, what does the farmer give us? He gives us rice. That's so we can what we can have rice. Without him, not only rice, vegetables, fruits, right? Farmers give these things. Likewise, we can appreciate their services. That is inculcating good attitudes, positive attitudes. You can do this in the scene track, your presentation especially, and even in the practice stage also. So the teacher must make opportunities for the students to get exposed to these things. Right, we'll go to this one. D.R. Krathwohl's taxonomy of affective domain. Give me another name for taxonomy. Classification. Right? D.R. Krathwohl's, W-O-H-L apostrophe S. Krathwohl's taxonomy of affective domain. According to D.R. Krathwohl, he says that one should follow 5 steps in order to develop good or positive attitudes, beliefs, and values. Right? Inculcate good attitudes, values, beliefs, and values. What are those 5 steps? Reception, response, value, organization, characterization. Remember this in the correct order. Right? First paper questions. You can remember these. Now we'll say RRVOC. Likewise, you can remember synonyms. Upali ළඟ ගිහින්. Likewise, here RRVOC. You can remember. We'll take the first one. Reception, right? This implies the initial signs of attraction towards a stimulus. The initial signs of attraction, underline attraction, initial signs of attraction. For example, if a student begins to show interest in reading, listening to songs, dialogues, or willingness in participating in group activities or any other classwork, this gives the impression that the child begins to pay attention to his surroundings with more awareness and interest. Example, after listening to a lesson about animals in prehistoric era, students show interest in finding more information about them. So after the learning teaching process, the child has developed an interest in finding more information about the animals in prehistoric era, dinosaurs, right? So that is a good habit or attitude, right? After the teaching learning process, the child has developed a positive attitude, interest, a hobby. That's the initial one. First, the child gets attracted to a stimulus. Here the stimulus is to know about the animals in the prehistoric era. Right, second one. First is the attraction. Just get an interest, right? It shows interest in something, the initial stage. Second one is response. Response means this shows the active participation, underline, active participation on the child's side. Now the child gets involved in the process. Earlier, only the interest, right? Now the involvement, participation, active participation. This goes beyond the initial attraction towards the stimulus. Here, the child not only shows the interest, but also he begins to engage actively in the classwork or any other activities with more enjoyment and satisfaction. So here now the child get engaged actively in the activity now. All right. Earlier the interest, now the active participation, involvement. Example. Now earlier the child, after the lesson, child got interested in finding more information about the animals in the prehistoric era. Now active participation, what? Prepares a scrapbook or models of animals of prehistoric era. Now he gets actively engaged in the task. Right? Another example, after a lesson on flowers and plants, he gets interested, and then in the response stage, he begins gardening as his hobby. Right? Active participation is the second one. Reception, response. The third step in the Krathwohl's taxonomy is value. This means the placement or assignment of a value on an entity or an act, right? You place a value, you appreciate the importance of doing the task. The initial step of this is the acceptance of the fact that there is a value to anything, right? There's a value to, now there's a value in preparing a scrapbook. And then you will know with the pictures, you can identify the animals with the pictures. A collection, there's a value. Even in the gardening, there's a value in the task. So the child learns to appreciate the value of doing these things in this stage. This may be high or low. After the acceptance, one begins to show active participation in the task. That's the second one. Gradually, he develops a value system within himself. Even when you get interested in the first stage, response, he sees a value in this. That's why he gets interested in. Then he actively participates. Then he realizes the real importance of the task. Example, a child accepts the fact that there is a value in reading about the animals maybe. So he begins to read books for knowledge as well as for pleasure. Gradually, the child becomes aware of certain values and then he begins to make his selections on them. Then he starts reading about different topics, right? So, value means what? Appreciation. Right. Next one, organization. By the way, what are we doing now? According to Krathwohl, he says to develop good attitudes within students, we have to, one has to follow 5 steps. First one should get interested in the task, that is reception. Then one should actively participate in the task, actively involved in the task, that is response. Third one should appreciate the value of it, appreciate the importance of doing that thing, that is value. Right? That's how you begin to develop an attitude, positive one. Number 4, organization. What is this organization? The combination or unity of different types of values. Organization means a combination of different types of values or unity of different types of values, not only one, right? values in an individual's inner self is called organization in the affective domain. By combining different values into a system, right, not only finding information about the prehistoric animals, then the plants, then the world, geography, all these things, different sets of values now. Values into a system, the person can have a better organization of values, right? A network of values which enables him to use them effectively. Not only one value, then he sees more. Example, a person may appreciate natural beauty. Okay, he may value his freedom. He knows the importance of time. Making use of all these values, he may select gardening as his leisure activity. All right. Now, earlier, not only reading on not only about animals, prehistoric, then he expands his interest in reading other things also. Not only reading them, maybe writing about these things. So you expand the system of value. You have a network of values, not only one. That is organization. Characterization. As a result of the establishment of an organization of value systems, a person may develop a certain lifestyle which is unique to him. Right? Now it becomes a characteristic of that person which is unique to him. Because of this, others may identify certain characteristics that belong to him. Now he is interested in finding information about those animals. He reads more. He goes to the museum. Now others think, this person, he likes reading about these animals. So other people identify a unique characteristic in him. In other words, the organized value systems have an effect on his behavior and conduct, enabling him to have a unique identity that differentiate him from the others. Some people like to know about stars, the galaxy. So we know that this person is interested in stars and all. Some people in sports, right? They appreciate the sports. They like to get involved in sports. So we know that this person likes this. It's a hobby of him, like that. Example, a child may value helping others. So he may actively participate in school welfare society, Boy Scout association, etc. So we know that child is a social being, right? He likes to help the others likewise. So now this is affective domain. It deals with heart, attitudes, values, beliefs, emotions, feelings, hobbies, habits, all these things. So we can use the Likert scale or attitudinal scales to measure these. Right? According to D.R. Krathwohl, there are 5 steps one has to follow in order to develop good attitudes. What are those? Reception, that means attraction, response, active participation, value, that means appreciation of the task, organization, developing a network of values, expanding. Characterization means it becomes a characteristic unique to that person. All right, that's the affective domain. Now you should make one example and have all these things. Example will say Shramadana campaign. Right, first you don't like participating in Shramadana campaigns, right, in the college maybe, but you see in the initial stage, you see how the others enjoy in participating in these activities. So you also get an interest because others are laughing and pushing those wheelbarrows and all, sitting on them like that. They are enjoying. So you also get interested in participating in that. So that's the first stage. That's the reception, right? Attraction. Then you go outside and participate, actively get involved in the task. You also help the others. So that is the second one is response, participation. Third one is value. You realize the importance of participating in these Ramadan campaigns, how clean the environment is now, how nice, how beautiful, right? You appreciate the task now. That is value. Organization. You expand this. Not only you are cleaning the surroundings of your classrooms, hostels, the college premises, all this. Not only cleaning Ramadan campaigns, you are doing other extra curricular activities also. That means other welfare society activities. You are expanding these values. Organization. Now it has become a characteristic of it. Now you are a very helpful person, right? You like to work in the society, uh, benefit for the others. So you are helping others, like that you have become a social being. That's the characterization. Likewise, you should be able to create one example and have all these things, right? I have seen the past papers, so you'll have to learn this. Now we'll go through the expected outcomes related to affective domain. Right? When you write your lesson plans, you write three learning outcomes, no? One for knowledge, one for attitude, and one for their skills. So when you write the learning outcome related to the attitude, you can say the student expresses the importance of helping others. The student states the importance of, value of. The student appreciates the value of helping the others, like that. You have to use those terms, right? Action verbs. Now here for these 5 steps, 5 learning outcomes, I have seen in the past paper questions that they give one topic, say reading as a hobby. So you have to write the learning outcomes like this for the 5 steps. Now, example, what this girl has written, we'll say, reception. The student shows an interest in participating in a blood donation campaign willingly. That's the reception. The student shows an interest. Response, the student donates blood, active participation. Right? The student donates blood in blood donation campaign bravely. Value. The student states the value and importance of participating in a blood donation campaign meaningfully. Organization. That means expand, having a network of values, right? The student participates enthusiastically in different types of social activities, such as blood donation campaigns. Now, that's not different, no? And help the needy programs, right? Like that. Characterization. The student depicts characteristics of a person who enjoys participating in social welfare activities willingly. Right. So you should be able to write the specific objectives or the learning outcomes like this. Now let's go to the third domain. Educational objectives and learning outcomes of psychomotor domain. Psychomotor domain. The learning outcomes under this domain are more concerned with skills. Psychomotor, right? You think and do. This is related to skills. Cognitive domain is related to knowledge. Affective domain It's related to attitudes, beliefs and values, etc. Psychomotor domain is related to skills. Concerned with skills which involve parts of the body, brain and hand, right? Brain and body, rather than the knowledge, brain, and with feelings, heart, right? This domain gives priority to skills rather than knowledge and attitudes. The physical skills, which are promoted as a result of the teaching learning process, are being evaluated under this domain, right? Now we are studying the aspects to be measured. What do we have to test in students? We have to test the students' performance, their skills also, right? So physical skills here. Example, the mobile skills of various muscles, right? Manipulation of body in exercises, moves, arms and legs correctly in drill displays. You can judge the students' skills in drill displays. That's one example. And another one, the ability to use different types of tools, equipment is not there, right? Cut it off. Equipment and machineries, which involve nerves and muscles. Example, draws a circle with correct manipulation of a compass. Compass kavakat draws a circle with the correct manipulation of compass, right? Now playing the flute, playing on the piano, playing a guitar, right? So those are in the home science classroom, how to use the knife and cut onions, fruits, those things, right? Mm, how to play the drums. Different activities which involves nerves and muscles. Example, singing produces voice using lips and the muscles of the neck, right? Singing, dancing, drawing, all these activities. So here, according to psychomotor domain, we measure the students' skills, ability to perform. Right. Now, who is the person involved here? E.J. Simpson. Right. E.J. Simpson's taxonomy of psychomotor domain. So, how would you interpret this? How would you say? According to E.J. Simpson, there are 7 steps one should follow in order to develop a particular skill. Now, E.J. Simpson says that one should follow 7 steps in order to master a particular skill. If you want to master the skill of playing a piano, then you will have to follow these 7 steps. At the end, you will play. You will have the ability to play the piano like that. Who says this? E.J. Simpson, right? First step, according to E.J. Simpson, the first step is perception. Perception means one should have a mental picture of the final outcome. Right? Now, in a race, right, you are holding the cup. That's the final outcome. You have become the winner, first place, and you are holding the cup. So that's the mental picture. Right now, this is the initial stage. When a person comes across a stimulus, something that he is interested in, first he responds towards it by forming a mental picture of how he is going to act regarding the matter. This is perception. In this process, he receives necessary signs and guidance from sensory organs in order to activate physically. First, he has the mental picture of the final outcome. That's perception. The second step is set. First one is perception, second one set. Set means the readiness. You are ready to do the task now. First you have a mental picture. This is what I will achieve at the end. Now you are ready, right? Physical and mental readiness, willingness to perform the task, right? Physically also you should be fit to do it, and mentally also you should be fit, not lazy, having second thoughts. No, mental and physical readiness, willingness to do the task. That's the second step. Then only you can master a skill properly, right? Who says this? E.J. Simpson. Now say home science subject. Example, to learn cooking, right? You are physical fitness as well as willingness. You are physically fit. You want to ride a bicycle. So you have to be physically fit to ride a bicycle. You want to perform a dance, right? You should be physically fit and also mentally fit to do this. Third one is guided response. What do you mean by the guided response? Performing a task under the guidance of an instructor or a teacher. Here you can read a book also, a manual maybe, right? You need guidance, additional help. Performing a task under the guidance of an instructor or a teacher, right? That is guided response, extra help, additional help. This involves imitation. You imitate the teacher, right? You look at the teacher and you do like the teacher does. Example, learns how to clean and cut vegetables, how to use different kitchenware, right? That is guided response. Now say you want to master the skill of computer typing or typing, right? The keyboard. Then you can use a book also. With the guidance of the book, you can learn how to do it. That is also guided response. Right. What's the first one? Perception, mental picture. Second one, physical and mental readiness set to do this one. Third one, you get additional help from a teacher or from a book. Right? Manual one there. Fourth one, mechanism. Right? Now we are doing the task, mechanism. At this level, the student is more confident in his abilities to perform his task. This is the result of sufficient practice. Mechanism, right? Now automatically you can do it, mechanically. She will perform the task mechanically. Efficiency can be examined here. So underline that one. Efficiency can be seen in this stage, mechanism, right? Chopping onions, example, chopping onions without cutting your fingers. Now the child can chop the onions, right? That is mechanism. So what is mechanism? Here in this stage, the child can perform the task with confidence, right? And efficiency can be examined here. Automatically the child can do the task. Complex overt response. Here, a high standard of proficiency in the previously learned task is expected. Underline the word proficiency. In the complex overt response, here we can see the proficiency. What do you mean by proficiency here? Neatness, accuracy, speed, etc. can be examined in the level. Here also he does the things mechanically, right? Automatically he does the things, but here we can observe neatness, accuracy, speed, etc. Example, how to prepare a meal and serve it, right? Neatness or everything is there. Adaptation. Adaptation. This is a high level of psychomotor activities. Here also you can see a hierarchy, right? Just like in the cognitive domain and also in the affective domain. Here also you can see a hierarchy. The base is here perception and you build up. Adaptation means this is the high level. At this stage, a student should be able to perform the task appropriate to different situations. Adaptation, right? Not only the previous situation, different one. Example, knows how to prepare breakfast, lunch, dinner, anything, right? Earlier, now she started with cooking. Now he can prepare the breakfast, lunch, dinner, everything. Adaptation. Once you have mastered the skill, you can adapt. Right now, once you have mastered the skill of teaching, then you can adapt your skill. Not only primary classes, not only junior secondary classes, but senior secondary classes, grade 10, 11. Not only grade 10, 11, advanced level classes also. General English, right? Adaptation, new situations. Last one is origination. That's the highest level. Creativity. Once you have mastered a skill properly, then the highest stage is you can create new things. Creativity, origination. Ability to perform the learned task or activities creatively. Tries on own new recipes, decorations, etc. Now we have taken this cooking example. No? So the last one is creation, new creation, origination. So these are the 7 steps. You have to remember, right? In E.J. Simpson skills, there are 7. Attitudes, 5. Knowledge, 6. Those things we'll have to remember, and the order also. So according to E.J. Simpson, one has to follow 7 steps in order to master a particular skill. Right, you have to get one example and write all these 7 steps. Say now perception, riding a bicycle, not a motor bicycle, a bicycle, right? You imagine, first you get the mental picture of you are riding very fast, right? Using a bicycle. That's the mental picture of the final outcome. Then set, you are physically and mentally ready, confident, right? You don't have broken legs or anything, then you can't ride, no. So you are physically fit and mentally also you are fit to perform the task. Guided response, you get your sister or brother to help you to ride the bicycle. He will say, and don't look close, you have to look far and pedal, like that. You get the help from the extra source, right? So that is guided response. Mechanism, now you can ride the bicycle, right? You don't fall down. You can ride the bicycle straight away and automatically you pedal, right? Efficiency can be seen in your riding. Complex overt response. Now here proficiency can be seen. That means you ride the bicycle without falling and speedy, quickly, and you take the turns accurately. Now you can ride the bike with proficiency. Adaptation, that means you are facing new situation. Earlier you rode using on what straight roads, right? In straight roads. Now you are riding slopes and hills and rusty. That means not the smooth, the flow, the ground is not smooth, right? With holes and pits, everything. Now you can ride, adaptation, riding, facing new situations. And in a town also with other vehicles coming. So adaptation, facing new situations. Origination. Now you create new things, new steps. You are riding on one wheel, right? You are riding without holding the bars. You are riding down the hills without holding the bars and all. You create new steps. That's the highest level of creativity or the skill. So remember all these, right? That's the E.J. Simpson taxonomy or classification of psychomotor domain regarding skills, how to master skill. The learning outcomes of the psychomotor domain. Quickly we'll go through. Perception, that means having a mental picture. The student states her dream about presenting a speech in the school monthly English association correctly. Set. The student exhibits strong characteristics of mental determination and physical fitness appropriately. Guided response. The student practices a speech with the help of the teacher enthusiastically. Mechanism. Here efficiency, right? Now you can remember like this, no? Mechanism M-E, no? The spelling is M-E-C-H. So M-E, mechanism, efficiency. The student delivers the speech confidently in the monthly class English association. Right? Confidently. Complex overt response. The student delivers a speech in the school English association fluently and accurately. Right? Here the child has mastered the proficiency of the task. Adaptation. Not adaptation. Adapt. D-A. The student delivers the speech in English in the annual English Day with correct pronunciation and expressions. Now here the annual English Day, new situation. Origination. The student delivers speeches written by herself in different school functions confidently. That's the creativity, origination. That's the highest level of mastering a skill. Right, this is a student work. Usually I don't give these things to you. I get you to prepare these learning outcomes in groups in the classroom, but here I just give this as an example. Right, there are mistakes, certain mistakes. When you prepare, do them properly. Now the last two domains, personality traits and social skills. Right, personality traits. The production of a well-balanced citizen is the sole aim of education. A well-balanced person should possess cognitive abilities, affective characteristics, psychomotor skills, and various types of social skills and good personality. Thus, the classroom activities should be organized so as to facilitate the development of personality traits of a person. So, what are the personality traits? How can you define that? You can say personality traits are individual characteristics of a person. Write it there. Individual characteristics of a person. Right? It deals with the personality of the individual. Now, what are the characteristics? You have to remember at least 5. Right? Good welcome means you are a welcoming person. Encourages, spellings they are wrong, right? Geous. Courteous. Personal cleanliness, a clean person, not a dirty person. Personal cleanliness, not cleanliness, cleanliness. Ability to hold responsibility, right? Can hold responsibility. Good behavior, ability to perform tasks accurately. Literacy, right? Not only the letters, computer literacy also. Possessing literacy, ability to face difficulties, right? Then creative, observant, questioning. Laziness is here, it's a negative one, right? Not lazy, very active. Talkativeness also, it goes both ways. Carelessness is a bad one, right? Punctuality, patience, obedience, all these things. Leadership qualities, right? Those are personality traits. Now, so what are personality traits? Individual characteristics of a person, right? So we have to encourage, we have to plan our lessons in order to develop these good personality traits in students. Say you can get the students to come in front of the class and give a speech or read out their work, and you have to appreciate them, so they build up their confidence. And you have to set deadlines, not deadlines, you say those who finish first with all correct answers, I'll give you red stars. So they'll develop the punctuality. They learn how to finish a task within the given time correctly. Likewise, you can organize these tasks, right, in the classroom. Then social skills. The system of education should facilitate a person to live in a society in a peaceful and useful way. The social skills are of three types: social skills related to people, social skills related to performance, social skills related to values of good or goodwill. Right? Now, what are the social skills? Respecting elders, respecting others' views, values local and national things. Right? Now, the transport system, you have to say all these things. You mustn't put all your rubbish on the flow of the trains, buses. Respect and appreciate others' views and services. Likewise, you can see loyalty, working cooperatively. So remember at least five social skills, right? Social skills. What are social skills? How can you define? Social skills, they facilitate how they facilitate a person to how to live in a society usefully and peacefully. Right? Social skills are the skills that are needed to live in a society peacefully and usefully. Write that and learn. Remember. Okay. Expected learning outcomes of personality traits and social skills. The student arranges the book racks in the school library willingly. That's a personality trait, right? Willingly. The student, now you can say, the student renders a speech in front of the class confidently. That's personality trait, right? Confidence. The student submit her completed work through Edmodo even in the vacation. So we can say that is dedication, right? Personality trait. The student submit her completed work through Edmodo, meeting the deadline. That is punctuality, right? So you should be able to create or design learning outcomes related to personality traits, right? Social skills. The student cleans the school premises with his friends cooperatively, right? Now here social skills are the ones with the group, right? Personality traits, individual characteristics. Here with the group. So we can give projects, all these things, group work. The student produces a quality output working cooperatively within his group. The student prepares a poster with his group members creatively, right? That is, so you have to include within his group, with his friends, then you can get an idea this is a social skill, right? create some learning outcomes for these two domains, right? Now we'll summarize this. Now we are studying the aspects to be measured. That means what do we have to test when we give tests to students. So we have to test the students' knowledge, not only knowledge. There are other things also, four other things basically. What are those? We have to test the students' knowledge, attitudes, skills, personality traits, and social skills. So if we are going to test those five, that means you have to include those five in your lessons, right? Then only students will develop those five objectives, those five aspects within themselves, right? That's why we have to uh, include all these as our objectives, specific objectives. Usually you write three, no? One for knowledge, one for attitude, one for skills. So you must learn how to write learning outcomes for personality traits and social skills also. The idea is that you'll have to include all five domains in your lesson. Right, now the summary, the knowledge, B.S. Bloom, cognitive domain, there are 6 steps. Then affective domain, you develop students' attitudes, values, feelings, emotions, beliefs, hobbies, habits, all these things. They deal with the heart. And psychomotor domain, by E.J. Simpson, you develop the students' skills. Right? You have to include activities so that the students can develop their skills, performance. Then good personality traits and social skills. And now you know how to write the specific objectives for each step in each domain, right? That is within the domain. Across the domains also you must learn how to write objectives. Now if we when we take a lesson plan, you write three objectives in your lesson plan, right? One for knowledge, attitude, and skills. But now say example, you have to be ready with one example, right, across the domains. We'll say the student now my first example, that you are going to a class, grade 7 class, and your main objective is to teach the students how to write an advertisement on a food product. That's the lesson, right? A 40-minute lesson. So if we take the 5 domains, you can write like this. The student names the key points that should be included in an advertisement correctly. So what are the key points? There should be the name of the product, then the ingredients, the price of the product, the weight, then the date of expiry date of manufacture. All these things you have to say. That is knowledge, right? Then for attitudes, the student states the importance of going through the information given in the advertisement carefully before buying or purchasing the product. So we have to go through the date of expiry, right? Date of manufacture before, and the price before buying a product. So those are attitudes, right? Values. So you can write the student states the importance, expresses the value of going through, right? That is for attitude. Now we'll take the skill, that means performance, right? Something that the students have to do. The student writes an advertisement on a food product creatively. Then personality trait. The student reads out the designed advertisement to the class confidently. Personality trait. Then social skill. The student designs a new advertisement with his group members cooperatively. Likewise, you should be able to write specific objectives or learning outcomes across the domains also for the 5 domains, right? So that's the end of the session. We learned about what to measure, right? So what are the things that we have to measure? Knowledge, attitude, skills, personality traits, and social skills. And the specific objectives should be based on knowledge, attitude, skills, personality traits, social skills. And the learning outcome should be based on knowledge, attitude, skills, so personality traits, and social outcomes. So all 5, those you have to include all 5 when you write the objectives and when you test the students, right? Then only we can produce a well balanced citizen, right? Okay.